I've always felt safe in my little apartment. The four walls, the cozy furniture, the warm glow of the lamps. This place has been my sanctuary for years. But lately something has changed. It started with a feeling, a creeping sense that I was being watched. At first I brushed it off as paranoia. I work long hours, stress builds up, and sometimes your mind plays tricks on you. But the feeling grew stronger. It wasn't just at home. I felt it walking to work, sitting at my desk, even in the crowded grocery store. Eyes were on me, unseen but ever present, lurking in the shadows. I mentioned it to my friend Laura one night. We were sitting in my living room, sipping wine, and I casually brought it up, hoping she would laugh and dismiss my fears. Instead, she looked at me with a concerned expression. "Have you seen anyone? Any strangers hanging around?" she asked. "No," I said, shaking my head. That's the thing. I haven't seen anyone, but I feel it. All the time. Laura suggested I install cameras in my apartment, just to ease my mind. I took her advice, hoping that if I could see there was no one there, I could finally get some peace. The cameras arrived a few days later, and I spent an afternoon setting them up. One in the living room, one in the bedroom, and one in the hallway. The first night, I slept better than I had in weeks, comforted by the thought that the cameras were watching over me. But the next morning, when I reviewed the footage, I saw something that made my blood run cold. In the living room, around 3 a.m., there was a flicker of movement. At first, it was just a shadow, a brief distortion, but then it appeared again, clearer this time, a dark shape moving across the room. I rewound the footage and watched it over and over, trying to convince myself it was a trick of the light. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. I showed the footage to Laura. She was disturbed but tried to stay rational. "It could be anything," she said. "A bug on the lens, a glitch in the system." But I could see the doubt in her eyes. We both knew there was something more to it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the camera in the corner, waiting for the shadow to return. Hours passed, and just as I was about to drift off, I felt it again. The sensation of being watched, stronger than ever. I bolted upright and grabbed my phone to check the live feed from the cameras. My heart pounded as I switched to the living room feed. The screen showed the empty room, bathed in the faint glow of the streetlights outside. But then, slowly, a shape emerged from the darkness, moving toward the camera. I could see it more clearly now. A figure, shrouded in shadow, with eyes that seemed to bore into my soul. I screamed and dropped the phone, the screen shattering on the floor. I ran to the living room, ready to confront whatever was there, but the room was empty. The shadow was gone. Days turned into weeks, and the feeling of being watched intensified. I stopped going to work, too afraid to leave my apartment. Laura came by often, bringing food and trying to reassure me, but I could see the fear growing in her eyes too. She urged me to see a doctor, but I refused. What could a doctor do against a shadow? My nights were filled with nightmares, and the shadow appeared more frequently in the footage. It seemed to be getting closer each time, its features becoming more defined. I could see its eyes now, hollow and dark, filled with a malevolent intelligence. One night, as I sat in the living room, staring at the camera feed, I felt a presence behind me. I turned slowly, and there it was, the shadow, standing in the doorway, watching me. I was frozen, unable to move or scream. It stepped closer, and I could feel the air grow colder, the room dimming around us. The last thing I remember is those eyes, staring into mine, pulling me into a void of darkness. I don't know how long I was unconscious, but when I woke up, I was lying on the floor, the apartment silent and empty. I tried to reach out to Laura, but she didn't answer her phone. I went to her apartment, but it was empty, her belongings gone as if she had never lived there. Desperate, I called the police, but they found no trace of her. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. Now, I sit alone in my apartment, the feeling of being watched stronger than ever. The shadow is always with me, lurking just out of sight, waiting for the moment to strike. I know it will come for me again, and when it does, there will be no escape. The eyes in the shadows are my constant companions, driving me deeper into madness.